Everyone likes to talk about failures, you know, but the main thing is you might have a lot of little small steps. Every one of those steps seemed to not take you anywhere in money. It didn't get you much more money. It didn't get you any money, but you know, you're kind of proud. You show them off to friends even. Your mind was increasing. Your methods of coming up with better solutions was increasing. You not only have to now read a book on how things are done, you can write the book, and that's called creativity. You create new things yourself.
Success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful.
And so you want to begin to take some chances. You want to begin to challenge yourself and make it okay to fail and learn from your failures.
I wake up to have a chance to meet new people and learn things. It's a people game, right? Like the people you surround yourself with over time are the people that kind of influence what you end up doing further on. And I saw so many people starting companies that I was like, seems like a lot of fun. I want to try that too.
Anybody can do this crap. I've spent 20 years trying to tell people, like, pick up a camera. It doesn't take much. Sometimes you just need somebody to be like, it's this simple, dude, and give you 3 steps, and suddenly you're like, that's it? I can take it the rest of the way. Getting started is always the hardest part.
Yeah, the best business models in the world are the ones where you like ask people what they want and they tell you and you go and you build it. Yeah. And like every now and then you have to read between the lines, because no one at the beginning of Instagram was like, I want a photo sharing app. No one. In fact, very few people. But when we built it, they were like, oh, wait. No, I don't want a photo sharing app that just does what I know photo sharing apps do. I do want a photo sharing app that makes my photos look cool.
Some of the greatest work comes from pain, or some great work comes from love, from loss. It's like wanting to be the best at whatever you do. Never stop until you're the best. Like, I don't believe in doing anything halfway. I believe in going all the way. So you never stop.
You know, you can't change the way you are wired much, but you can change a lot of what you do with that wiring. When you write down the qualities of that person that you'd like to buy 10% of, look at that list and ask yourself, is there anything on that list I couldn't do? And the answer is there won't be. And when you look at the person you sell short and you look at those qualities that you don't like, if you see any of those in yourself, egotism, whatever it may be, selfishness, you can get rid of that. I mean, that is not ordained. And if you follow that, and Ben Franklin did this, and my old boss Ben Graham did this at early ages in their young teens. Ben Graham looked around and he said, who do I admire? You know, and he wanted to be admired himself, and he said, you know, why do I admire these other people? And he said, if I admire them for these reasons, maybe other people will admire me if I behave in a similar manner. And he decided what kind of a person he wanted to be. And if you follow that, at the end, you'll be the person you want to buy 10% of. I mean, that's the goal in the end. And it's something that's achievable by everybody in this room.
We all go through hard times. We all go through depression. We all go through doubt. Trust me. Everybody has a hard road. That is what makes you a person. And those difficult moments are what build your character. Sometimes you just got to get up and get shit done. There's sometimes where you have to pull yourself up and you have to push forward even if you want to stay in bed.
Constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold. And you should seek that from everyone you can, but particularly your friends.
My thing is this: I keep my eyes on the prize. I never focus on things outside the ring. My focus is the guy that's in front of me. I always had a dream, and my dream was to be the best. No matter what happens.
See, we can't control the thoughts that come in our minds, but we can control the thoughts that we dwell on.
Now, why did I say that entrepreneurship is the solution to all problems? Because entrepreneurship, in my view, is not about business. It's about the willingness to take responsibility for your own life. So anybody can be an entrepreneur in any situation whatsoever. You don't have to be a business owner for that. You are an entrepreneur as long as you stand up and say, I am responsible for what happens to me. And I am taking ownership of my life, and I will do what is necessary to make the results that I want to happen.
I had the privilege of going to a Marine base once and talking to Marines about how they plan their next move. There's this phrase called bias towards action. The idea that you can spend all of your time thinking about what the perfect next move is, trying to plan, am I going to work at Google? Am I going to work at Microsoft? Like which one? McKinsey or Bain? Like the next perfect move, and spending a tremendous amount of time trying to figure that out. The Marines say you can spend all the time you want, but by the time you figured it out, you're dead. So like sometimes you need to make a trade-off of what is the action I can take with the appropriate amount of information and risk to move. Because moving and progress is what gets us to the next step. By moving and learning, it all adds up. That summation of your experience over the last 10 years is what makes you into the thing tomorrow that will be successful. All the other jobs that I had offered, there were like 2 or 3, a couple at a startup, one at Microsoft, one at Google. I took the lowest salary of any of the offers that I had because I wanted to work in a specific job at Google. I didn't care what job it was actually. I just cared that it was at Google and I would surround myself by amazing people. And that was the first lesson that I learned, is like, go to where the people are. Short-term, long-term trade-offs, just go to where the people are.
Of course we look for disconfirming evidence. One of the directors said very simply, we should make a list of everything that irritates a customer, and then we should eliminate those defects one by one. And of course, that is the way to compete in a service business. It involves continued fanaticism and so forth. One of the reasons we bought the little company in Logan, Utah, is that we like the service ethos of the place and the recruitment methods.
The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked #1. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement.
I just didn't spend money on myself. I just dumped all the profit back in the business, and we were buying vintage stuff, you know, for years that it costs $5, $10, $15, $50, and you're selling it for, you know, $100, $200, $1,000. I mean, I've bought things for $8 that I've sold for $1,000, and that's really good cash flow, right? I didn't know what that word even meant, you know, but it was just like, it looked really good, just like building in the bank.
The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams, that want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.
I think that's actually a really interesting part of this for me is, and I mean, being at a place like this where obviously a lot of you guys are thinking about starting companies, and you know, for me, so much of the lesson that I feel like I've learned is, I feel like it's really hard to decide to start a company, right? You know, Facebook, I didn't start it to start a company. I started it because I really wanted this thing personally, and I believed that it should exist globally, although I wasn't quite sure that we would be able to play a role in doing that. It was mostly just through kind of like wanting to build it and having it be this hobby and getting people around me excited that it eventually kind of evolved into and got the momentum to become a company. But I never really understood the psychology of deciding that you want to start a company before you understand what you want to do. I mean, this gets back to the question of why did we first open at colleges that had competitors? I have this big fear, I think, of getting locked into doing things that aren't actually the most impactful things. I mean, to me, this is like the trait that entrepreneurs have, is they just have this like laser-like ability to go find where they can have the most impact. And you know, when you take on a new project, especially if you hire people or start a company, you're doing that project. And I mean, there are obviously different ways that it can exit and all that, but I think having the flexibility to explore a lot of different things, which you can do when you're in college, which is one of the amazing things about being in college, is you can work on all these hobbies and code a lot of stuff and try a lot of different things. It's this amazing flexibility that I think most people take for granted. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it with someone else, you immediately now need to convince someone else if you want to change your mind on something. And I think people really undervalue the option value and flexibility. I think explore what you want to do before committing is really like the key thing, and keep yourself flexible. And no, I think that's... I
agree.
Yeah, but I think, and you can definitely do that within the framework of a company, but I think you have to be wary about starting a company too rigidly, because you're going to change what you do. I mean, people talk about pivots all the time as if it's like your thing didn't work, so you pivoted. Facebook pivoted many times. It's just that, you know, we were college, and then we were not college, and then we were just a website, and then we were a platform, right? And you're going to change what you do.
So the first step before even thinking about investing is getting out of debt. Once a person gets out of debt, now you want to think about money building, money creation, right? And money savings, like how to save on tax and so on and so forth. And that's where I really like to focus with people is getting their beliefs straight and then building up wealth, right? And then once they build up wealth, there's this idea of, let's invest for the future and so on. And, what are you investing for the future for? And usually they'll say, well, retirement. And that's only going to be like, let's say, for some people, they might not even reach there. Other people might be like 3 years, 5 years. Maybe it's going to be 10 years, maybe longer, something like that. But why would you live your whole life and miss out on all your younger years because you want to have some money in those old days? And if you live a frugal life in your younger years, believe me, when you get older, what are you going to buy when you're old? Right? You're just going to go on vacation or something like that. I think there's just this overemphasis on the retirement. People can focus better on getting financially independent and financially free and enjoying their life while they're young, and also doing good things when they have that energy and time, and really bring the happiness that everybody's looking for. I mean, that's my goal.
But understand that naturally nobody is interested in your idea. The world could care less. You have to persuade them, and you have to show that you're the one person out there that can do it.
And so it's not just about doing focus groups, it's not just about double checking your vision, it really is about integrating this concept of testing our ideas rigorously throughout the product development process, throughout the marketing process, even as we scale up.
And I think the reality is just, not quite so glamorous. There's there's an ugly side to being an entrepreneur. And also just more importantly, what you're actually spending your time on is just a lot of hard work. Sam mentioned this, but you're basically just sitting at your desk, heads down, focused, answering customer support emails, doing sales, figuring out hard engineering problems. So it's really important that you kind of go in with eyes wide open.
I think too is you got to make sure that whatever you're doing is a great product or service. It has to be really great. And I go back to what I was saying earlier, where if you're a new company, I mean, unless it's like some new industry or new market that, if it's an untapped market, then you have more ability to. The standard is lower for your product or service. But if you're entering anything where there's an existing marketplace against large entrenched competitors, then your product or service needs to be much better than theirs. It can't be a little bit better, because then you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer and they say, why would you buy it as a consumer? You're always going to buy the trusted brand unless there's a big difference. So a lot of times, entrepreneur will come up with something which is only slightly better. And it can't just be slightly better. It's got to be a lot better.
If anybody ever knocks you down in life, guys, or tells you can't do something, or just puts a downer on what you're trying to do in general, don't let these things get to you. Don't let what these people say have any effect on you whatsoever. You have the control of your future. The control of you is all in your mind and your hands. Trust me. If you want something, you can go out there and get it. And it might take a bit longer than you first thought. Doesn't matter. If you keep going, You will get there in the end. If you want it that bad, you will. Don't let anybody take control of your future other than
So I have like 4 friends that are billionaires, and I have one mentor, well, 2 mentors that are billionaires, and I've always wanted to be a billionaire since age 7, so I'm almost halfway there. And I think if you surround yourself with the people who are at where you're trying to go, you get there a whole lot faster. You tend to make half the mistakes, you know, and you kind of marginalize the risk. And so it's, you know, if I could give you some really good advice, you know, you don't need to read the next book. It's not going to unlock your potential, because books educate you, but they don't make you apply anything. And you know, if you want to attend a course, courses are great too. Events are great because, you know, you learn a lot, but the application and the execution is still up to you. A mentor, on the other hand, will hold you accountable. You know, he'll make you responsible, and he'll challenge you to really execute on the stuff that you're learning. So, if I mean, idea is a dime a dozen. If you can't execute on it, it's worth nothing. You know, you can have the most brilliant idea in the world, all the talent in the world, and if you don't.
I've never really viewed myself as particularly talented. Where I excel is ridiculous, sickening work ethic. You know, while the other guy's sleeping, I'm working. While the other guy's eating, I'm working. There's no easy way around it. No matter how talented you are, your talent is going to fail you if you're not skilled. You know, if you don't study, if you don't work really hard and dedicate yourself to being better every single day, you'll never be able to communicate with people, with your artistry, the way that you want. So the only thing
let's say you're the leader in a particular arena. If you're competitor focused and you're already the leader, then where does your energy come from? Whereas if you're customer focused and you're already the leader, customers are never satisfied. So you always, if you're customer focused, you're always waking up, how can we make that customer say, wow? How can we, you know, our energy, our passion, we want to impress our customers. We want them to say, wow, is that kind of divine discontent comes from observing customers and noticing that, you know, things can always be better.
If you don't have a team, you got to figure out what that balance is for yourself. You can't take on too much, but at the same time, you don't want to just do one thing. I like to spin a lot of plates because you put all your eggs in one basket, don't work out, you're bored, you've wasted all that time. But the fact of the matter is, back in the day, we used to make a movie and then work on just the movie and wait till the movie was out and then figure out what to do next. And now, you know, it would lead sometimes to, like, let's say you made Jersey Girl. You make the movie over the course of a while, it comes out, and then boom, that's it, it's over like in a week or 2 weeks. So I like to spin as many plates as possible that way, like if this thing isn't panning out, or this thing is too far off in the distance, or this ain't gonna happen the way I want it, boom, we could shift over to something else. So that's why I do it, but when you do it, be careful. You gotta find the right balance. I wish there was a formula to give you. There's not. It's all up to you. It's inside of you. Just do as much as you can before you get to the point where you're like, I can't take it anymore.
To express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself.
and to express myself honestly. Now, that, my friend, is very hard to do. It's not difficult to learn and speak the word. The hard thing, the difficult thing, it's behind what is the meaning, what brought on the expression and feelings behind those words. Now, I think the successful ingredient in it was because I was being Bruce Lee.
Yourself?
Myself, right. And did that part, just express myself, like I say, honestly express myself.
Boys, you must strive to find your own voice. Because the longer you wait to begin, the less likely you are to find it at all. Thoreau said most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Don't be resigned to that. Break out.
If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it, and if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, if neither cold poverty, famish or cold, sickness or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, you'll get it.
Reflecting now back on my career, like my dedication is what made me successful, because I'll be honest, I wasn't the most genetically blessed guy on stage. I just had a lot of dedication and commitment, and I was relentless.
It all begins kind of with you. So, you know, that's about belief. You can't expect a bunch of people out there to believe you are this thing unless you be this thing yourself.
To be successful, you have to be focused on the why. And I think both of the speakers before mentioned this, because this is really important. To be successful, you have to be focused on why you want to achieve what you want to achieve. If I was to ask you, you want to make money, the question is why? What is money by itself? Is it going to make you happy? Is it going to give you contentment? I don't think it is. By itself, money doesn't bring contentment. There are many people in the world who have so much money they don't know what to do with that money. But yet, they might overdose on drugs, or they'll do all sorts of, they might commit suicide or this or that, because money by itself simply does not bring you happiness and contentment. So you have to focus on why you need that goal. Why you want to achieve that goal. Whether it's a financial goal, whether it's a location goal, whatever it is, why? Ask yourselves right now, why am I here?
How many people have you met in your life who have said things like, I had that idea, I knew about that, or I was so close but I gave up? I think sometimes the difference between success and failure, winning and losing, is a very fine line between those people who will continue to move forward.
Often I just want to ask, or I want to find out what drives people. Some people are really driven by money, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just like not usually a fit here. Some people are really driven by like wanting to make the world a better place. Some people are really driven by wanting to learn. Like, what drives people? Like, what gets them up in the morning? Where does the fire come from? Because like the best people in the world just have a fire about something. Not about everything, but about something.
This is my time. I own my life. I had to start thinking I have the ability to do this, and I had the mindset that I'm unstoppable. There is something in you that can transcend your circumstances, that can transcend the no's and rejections, that can transcend anything that you're going through.
Most startups that fail do it ultimately because they did not make something that people wanted. They made something that, that they thought people would want, but they were either in denial about it, whether it was actually any good, or somebody else came along and made something that people wanted even more.
I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
When you start with your company, you're going to have a lot of anxiety and stress and fear, and your job is to transform that into self-confidence and to give you kind of that, the ability to say, I have clarity, I trust myself, I have a feeling for my vision, I can see that happening. I work with entrepreneurs all the time. That kind of shift from, anxiety to trust, that's the most important thing that they can go through.
But what you really need to do is think about what is the smallest possible test that I can run for this idea, for this concept, for this theory. Get it out there and get customers using it. Because your customers are going to be the ones to tell you if it's really working or not.
What this all comes down to is doing something exceptional for your users, whether it's in community, whether it's in connection, or whether it's in design. This is our big advantage as a startup, is that we can actually get away with doing this. We can make this the core part of why we're doing business.
About there's two sides of pain that I don't think a lot of people really understand, right? There's one side of pain that's the suffering and the discomfort side of pain, because that hurts. You remember what that felt like. But then there's another side of pain that's called effort. It's called glory. It's called, if you can find a way to push through pain, there's something greater on the other side of it.
I do believe that organizations, human organizations, are inherently unstable. They will fall over. and you have to work to keep them upright. But they fall slowly. Most people don't notice it. They let their success blind them. They don't see it falling over. The falling takes place slow, but the collapse is quick. You have to do constant assessment. You have to look for the hard truths.
We are generally a little bit forward-leaning when it comes to trying to make progress happen. For me, it's about problem solving and loving to solve problems. And so if you are passionate about solving problems, sometimes I just like to describe this as like, imagine a really great math professor with no problems to solve, right? A great math professor is somebody who wants the hardest problems, who wants to solve them and loves solving them. That's kind of how I feel about my work. And so it's not about a man in a hurry. It's more about really interesting problems in the world and how do you lean into them and solve things that people maybe thought weren't even possible to solve. And that's fun.
I always want to better myself. I don't consider other designers competition. You know, for me, my competition is me from the season before. I'm very ambitious. I always want to better myself. I never sit back and say, wow, look.
I knew that I wanted to change my life. I knew that I didn't want to go down the path that I was going down because I got scared, and fear is a great motivator.
I think that success in business is a very difficult thing to achieve. And it's more difficult today probably than any other time, despite the vast number of opportunities. And as it relates to finding your calling in terms of what the opportunity or the entrepreneurial adventure is going to be, it has to be linked to something that you are so passionate and crazed about that you're willing to knock down walls and climb mountains and do the things that are going to put yourself in a position of sacrificing so many other things for its success. And you can only do that when there's a compelling underlying feeling that you have that this is something I'm going to fight to the death for. And without that, I think it's going to be a commodity-based experience, not only for the customer, but for you. And I think you can't really succeed at the levels that you want to unless you find that thing that you're so passionate, excited, and in love with. And I think because you've got to, along the way, you're going to have to convince so many other people to believe in you and the idea and the opportunity, and the struggle and the obstacles that are going to come can only be overcome by this passion that you have, in which you're going to be able to get people to follow you over those hurdles. I know it sounds a little bit sophomoric, but it's so true.
First of all, I'd say starting a business is not for everyone. You know, so generally, starting a business, I'd say number one is have a high pain threshold. There's a friend of mine who's got a good saying, which is that starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. Okay, that's generally what happens, because when you first start a company, there's lots of optimism and things are great, and then so happiness at first is high. Then you encounter all sorts of issues, and happiness will steadily decline, and then you'll go through a whole world of hurt. And then eventually, if you succeed, and in most cases you will not succeed, and Tesla almost didn't succeed, came very close to failure. Then if you succeed, then after a long time you will finally get back to happiness.